bought two things on Amazon.com last week.
You did?
Yep, the first was a telescoping back scratcher that can reach every part of my back. And the second thing was a 5-quart colander, strainer, really, not a colander, for straining.
That's cool.
For to strain. Two very exciting purchases.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sad that you have less to say about them than I would have hoped.
The back scratcher is an interesting. Like, is this like a just sort of an like impulse buy?
No, for a long time.
You'd been eyeing this for a while.
Honestly, if I could go to a spa and just have a back scratch instead of a massage, I would go for a back scratch.
Really?
For realsies.
Which one? The telescoping one? Like one of these little like jewel colored ones?
Well, it's not jewel colored. It's got a nice plastic foamy sort of handle, and then the metal telescoping thing that goes out like, I don't know, 3 feet, 2 feet. And then there's a little stylized metal bear claw on the end of it.
This is the one called the claw? Because this is really terrifying looking, dude.
It's called the bear claw, exclamation point.
Ooh.
It's great.
I don't know if I agree with you on this. This is purchase that I am a little skeptical about. But if it makes you happy, I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to apologize for my love of scratched backs, back scratches, rather. Not really giving so much as receiving.
I don't know that I've bought anything nearly as interesting on Amazon other than books and, shoes.
Oh, man, you've got to do a deep dive and end up buying some, like, clothes that come in a color you weren't expecting, or, yeah. Buying stuff online is the best.
Oh, no, I love it. I definitely love it. But, it's, I don't know. The thing about online, like, I personally hate shopping, so, like, the online thing seems like a really good idea until you get it, and then you're like, oh, I have to return it.
Returning is a pain, yeah. Like, gotta schedule UPS to come back, or find a
right.
UPS store, or whatever, yeah.
Or, like, you accidentally bought the one that wasn't the Amazon free return, and then you paid to send it back. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the back scratcher, nice. I don't even
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But wait,
that seems charitable of you.
And then the colander is just, you didn't have one?
Isn't that weird? Like, yeah, for 5 years,
what?
I've been living in the States without a colander. Or
what kind of savages are you?
I don't know. I don't even know how we've been. I think we've been like
you just do the lid,
straining pasta like with a fork. Like you just tip the pot and like try to keep the noodles in as you give it to the water. It's chaos. Yeah.
Bill did buy this like tuna fish. Like you only use it with, like, tuna fish cans, and it's this like strainer thing you put on top.
Yeah.
He loves it. He just yelled out that it's awesome. He stands by his purchase. I just think it's a silly thing.
But it's only for tuna fish.
It's just for tuna fish.
So I guess you just have to make sure you eat a lot of that.
I guess. But.
However, welcome to Reanimated. Episode 133. My name is Stuart. And joining me on the easterly coast is the illustrious H.A. Conrad.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. I have not fully caffeinated yet. I'm trying to do that.
That was my next question. I am 2 cups in, but hours short on sleep. I think this might be the longest period of time in my life that I've had this little sleep. So it's only going to get better.
Is it anxiety, or is it the time change, or just circumstances beyond your control?
The circumstances beyond my control, just being a baby who likes to cry a lot at night.
I personally have been having a very difficult time adjusting to the stupid 1 hour thing, and I know that sounds...
Still.
I have been really struggling with this, so I just need to figure something out. I don't know if that means just like running for hours before going to bed or something, but I am still struggling. But hopefully we'll resolve that. So I have upped my caffeine intake, which probably is not helping matters if you think about it. It's probably just a vicious cycle. But all good.
Potentially.
But for today, coffee.
All right. Well, as long as we've got our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Episode 133 today is a special day because we're reviewing Maniac Cop 1988 picture. If we had managed to record this on the day we were planning, it would have been fortuitous because it's just a couple days after St. Patty's Day. Turns out this is a St. Bloody Disgusting had written an article just before we were going to record and said this is the best horror film for St. Patrick's Day, which is something I'd never thought about, trying to put two things together like that.
I think that that's stretching it a bit personally.
No, the St. Patty's angle doesn't even show up till like the last 20 minutes of the movie.
And
so,
it's
yeah.
not even really that. It's not like the main focal point of the whole thing.
No, it was a stretch, but hey, it made for an interesting article nonetheless, and it was quite timely considering we were about to review it. So
it's true, but even though we did delay, some new news came out this past week, and this had been ruminating out there in horror sci-fi land, but Maniac Cop remake finally got a green light, apparently.
that is exciting news.
It's been pretty funny reading some of the reviews of this film franchise, especially some of the comments from Bruce Campbell. So it's interesting to me that they have decided to remake this film. Nicholas, is it Winding or Winding? Winding Refn is going to be the director. He is an exploitation grindhouse cinema fan, and so he is very excited to be doing this, I guess. Curious to see who they cast, because there's some big shoes to fill in this cast, but there will be more Maniac Cop for future generations to enjoy.
Oh, the kids. Think of the kids and all the Maniac Cop they'll have. But we're not quite ready to talk 100% about that film yet. We'll get to it, but we've got a lot of news to cover, and some of it is Maniac Cop related, weirdly. First up, we've got interviews with Scott Gimple, who was basically the nut of this article was from Mashable, was that the end of season 7 is going to be the end of a chapter for The Walking Dead. And 801 is slated to be the 100th episode of the show. Mm-hmm. Essentially, this is like another sort of article like we've talked about recently, where they are just trying to tell people that, hey, the show's not going to be over anytime soon.
Right, and they talked about 100 more episodes that they already have an idea for and that kind of thing.
That's bananas, yeah.
I understand why they're doing this, but I do think that maybe it does make sense to end a certain chapter and not reboot it, maybe take it in a different direction. I'm wondering if that means that they're just going to recast it entirely, or there will be very few of the original cast left. Who knows?
It's definitely the story could definitely get rid of just about everybody.
Yeah. Speaking though of cast members, I don't know if you happen to see that they reunited the cast of Love Actually, and Mr. Lincoln, if you recall, was one of the people in that film, and he was one of the people that they got to come back and do. It's basically for the charity event, Red Nose Day, which is a big UK. They do like comedic skits and things like that to raise money for various charities. And I have not seen the skit yet, but I was really hoping they had Andrew Lincoln in it as his like Walking Dead character. It would be amazing if Rick Grimes showed up and was like, "You'll have no idea where I've been." And so he does look a little rough in the stills from this, because he does have his full on Rick Grimes beard going on.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was kind of funny because I forget that he was in that. It was just so long ago, and to me, he's now just fully Rick Grimes all the time.
I remember his character in kind of a negative light because he shows up at the house of a married woman and tells her that he loves her.
Yeah, it's not just the house of the married woman. It's the
best
wife
friend,
is his
right?
best friend, right? And
Yeah.
he was like the best man. So yeah, he's a little stalkery and creepy here.
Bit of a jerk, and yet you're not supposed to feel like he's a total dick because Keira Knightley's all like, ooh, I don't know. Yeah, I never liked that scene.
There's a lot of troubling things in that film if you examine it a little too closely. Okay. So, but in any
that's
case,
for our other podcast,
our
Love Actually,
our rom-com podcast,
our 100 episode deep dive into Love Actually, the film.
But moving,
Otherwise,
but moving on. So Chris Hardwick,
taking over the world.
or part of the world anyway, his specific niche of the world, and he's doing an admirable job.
So there was an article in Variety a couple weeks ago that he's starting up his own production company called Fish Ladder, and he's gonna basically start doing a talking show on AMC. I think it's just gonna be called Talking instead of Talking Dead or Talking Bad, which were two of the versions that were out there. It's just gonna be called Talking, and it's gonna be year round, or maybe just a season instead. I don't know. I can't imagine he'll actually have a year round show. I don't think is that even precedented anywhere.
No.
The Daily Show, maybe, but they take a lot of breaks.
People take a lot of summer breaks and things like that, so I
But
feel
yeah,
like.
so
But you know what? His format, even though I mean he's obviously the main person, the main force behind it, but the way that the format is, even if it was a year-round show, you could see some people maybe guest hosting and things like that. And I think that there are ample opportunities to do that, depending on what they decide to do.
yeah, and I wonder how much of a crossover there'll be with Nerdist, which has a lot of other talent too, like people who host shows from that
Right.
internet network. It would be, that's essentially that's I feel like that's another production company that he has a hand in is Nerdist. I don't know if you're familiar with much of their work.
Yeah, no, I am.
Yeah,
Also approve. So
right.
heartily, it's great, and I feel like he's been moving toward this kind of deal or this kind of an idea for a while. It just feels like he has his hand in a lot of things. Where the man gets the time of day to do this, I don't know, because it just
No,
feels like he's on he seems like he's everywhere.
he's on like major networks now with The Wall and or Wall. I don't know if there's a the in front of it. He also is like guest hosting on some live show on a major network that I don't remember. I don't know the name of because I don't watch any of those morning shows. But he's doing like morning show interviews, like Regis and Kathy Lee type stuff.
Yeah. So good for you, Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, man. And then I've been watching a lot of At Midnight, so that's where he gets to curse and express all of his dissatisfaction with the way the world is, which is also a nice thing to see because he's such a fanboy for everything else. Or like you can't imagine him saying anything negative about The Walking Dead, for instance. On Talking Dead, he's always very, very diplomatic.
He's diplomatic. I mean, if there is any criticism I have of him, is that sometimes I feel like his fanboy levels are a little too fanboy-y for me. But it is. I do love the enthusiasm, and I think it's great that he is expanding his little Hardwick universe.
Yeah, for real. Um, okay, so Archie,
Yeah, which
preach on.
is
I don't know anything about this.
all right. So the thing this is so what do you know about Archie comics or in general? Or it's sort of the
Yeah, I know that they exist, and I know that they did a zombie storyline in the comic books some
yeah,
time ago, and we talked about it on the podcast then. But I have
right.
never read it, and I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so the art there was obviously the original Archie comics, and then what you and I talked about, there was a bit of a weird spin-off called Afterlife with Archie. And there is this show on the CW called Riverdale, and it's basically based upon these comics. And there's been a lot of hints in this season, in the season one of this show, that they are going to probably go toward more of a zombie genre based upon the comic books. I'd say that's probably true. It's kind of interesting that they didn't really full on embrace the sci-fi in the first season, but I'm looking forward to this. I think it's kind of a cool twist, and I personally haven't seen this show, but now I'm going to actually watch it, I guess. CW is not usually right up my alley in terms of shows,
Hmm.
but they sound kind of excited about it, and fans are losing their minds, and so I think it was a little bit of a surprise to people because the supernatural take of it was definitely not present or not, not really. They are really taking a bit of a just a hard right turn into season two if this is the way that they go, which I like. That's kind of a cool lead up. Um, but yeah, that's it, and it looks. I looked at a few of the fan theories, and it was fans losing their minds, which, is what should happen when a twist like this happens. So, and basically, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but there was a death of a certain character that led people into all of this speculation.
Okay.
So, and in other sort of, I don't want to say classic, but classic from my teenage childhood years, sci-fi years, you spotted something coming out on Netflix.
Netflix in April is going to include a new reboot, if you will, of Mystery Science Theater, and they've already added some of the back catalog to Netflix. So I feel like MST3K is just part of the modern consciousness now. Anytime people watch something and you get a lot of podcasts that do like live reviews, or they get drunk and like review a movie or something, and you're supposed to watch along, and that's essentially the MST3K model, except without the drinking. Although maybe they were drunk, because you never know. But
I don't know. Maybe not just probably some sort of altering substance, perhaps.
Could be. But they definitely did some zombie films in their time, so it's I don't know. I'm really excited for them to come back, and I'm just hoping that they knock it out of the park, because I feel like there's a lot of talent on that show.
There's a lot of talent and just a lot of wit and dry humor and great observation. So I'm psyched to see the reboot. I was very disappointed to see that, Buffy, Angel are going away on Netflix, but I'll take the new reboot. I'll take that. It'll be all right.
Did they ever do a cast photo for Buffy?
What do you mean?
Like they did a cast photo, you were saying, for Love Actually. They were talking about doing one for Buffy, but the Angel guy was like, "No, I don't want to do it."
Yeah, I think that they did not. But I think there's been some really funny little Twitter reunions and stuff like that you've seen on there. So they're still out there and kicking. Buffy just celebrated. I don't even want to talk about what anniversary it is, but pretty.
I think it was the 20th. That was why they were gonna. That was why they were
gonna do it. Yes, I know. I just didn't want to say it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Maniac Cop the first.
Yes.
To be followed by Maniac Cop 2 and 3, and now Maniac Cop 2017, if we play our cards right.
Right.
1988 film, just the best movie ever. Written by Larry Cohen, directed by William Lustig. Mm-hmm. And this thing was made for $1.1 million, and it netted $671,300, and then somehow they still managed to make 3 more of them. Call me crazy, but I don't understand that math. But I guess we all benefit, so who am I to suggest that $670,000 does not equal $1.1 million?
Yeah. But it gained a very excited and rabid cult fan base after the fact, which is probably why they got to make more films like this. Mm-hmm. And this is definitely like classic grindhouse genre. I actually, while watching this, realized that I had seen this before, and I feel like I saw this on I don't know, it was probably some weird, I don't want to say sci-fi, or maybe it's like a horror film festival on cable or something like this. I think I saw it during college and thought, this is a really odd film to have made. It was, and I don't think I watched the whole thing, but it's one of those classic, gore fests, lots of gratuitous violence and strange makeup. And there's also an enormous amount of 80s hair and fake tan in this film.
Yes, the hair, they come out strong out of the gates with some great hair.
There is some crimping, some teasing, some really just incredibly bizarre hairstyles in this. But I think what is most remarkable to me about this particular film is the cast, because they have got some pretty interesting and good actors in this that, I am a little surprised that they signed on to this film.
Who do you think was on a different trajectory before this movie? like
Well,
Upward Bound.
I mean, I think it says a lot that you've got well, look, we've got Bruce Campbell in this film, and he looks like a baby in this. This is long before he had his cult following. Maybe this
Yeah.
helped with his cult following. He looks, to me, like a teenager in this film, and he plays a cop, and he doesn't have, his standard sort of jokey, kitschy lines and silly scenes. He actually plays a pretty straightforward patsy in this. Though, he gets to be a little bit of a hero as well. But none of that going on. In fact, it took me just a second to recognize him when he first made his entrance. Probably because they showed him from behind being all, mysterious.
Yeah, it was weird. They didn't want to show his face for the first like 2 minutes of his
Yeah,
introduction.
it was really an odd entrance. But there was him, and then the what is his name? Well, the sort of the actual Maniac Cop. I wouldn't say he was on a different trajectory. I think this actually probably helped him.
Yeah, I think he's probably best known for this role.
Right, Robert Zadar, who plays the Maniac Cop. This is an actor where this is the kind of actor where I wonder how far he would have gotten if anything was made today, because he actually had a genetic an issue of cherubism, which causes your face at just something goes haywire, and you kind of lose your jawbone and just have a lot of flesh on your face, and you look, I guess you look a little like a cherub, and you have a really just distinctive looking face. And his only got, to me, it got kind of worse as he got older, and this was what he was known for and cast for. But there was also the mayor,
So in the version that you watched was the extended version then, because the mayor doesn't even show up in the original theatrical release.
No, I watched the extended because I felt
Yeah.
like the extended. Did you not? Is that
No, I did too, but I realized as I was watching it, mostly because the quality of those scenes is garbage. I was like,
Yeah.
there's no way that this came out in the theaters.
No, it was actually kind of fascinating. Speaking of Buffy, the gentleman who plays the mayor in the extended version was one of the main characters on Buffy for a little while, one of the principals, and gets like offed.
His assistant is also super recognizable, the guy with the glasses.
Yeah, who is that guy?
We could look it up.
Yeah, I guess we could. We have the interwebs.
We do have the technology.
Yeah, no, it was sort of like they...
Leo Rossi. Sorry,
right.
Leo Rossi is his name. And he is he's a hardworking actor. He's in a lot of stuff.
But Ken Lerner is Mayor Killiam in the, I guess, spliced in scenes. It was really strange how they did it. Like, the quality is so off, and the sound is just, it's really strange how they decided to edit that in. But hey, nobody's really, I think after the fact, people are not really going to complain too much about it.
They're like extra bonus footage, Most of those scenes, I was not super interested in hearing what the mayor had to say.
No, they were pretty rough. But I think that the main person that I am kind of, I just was like, oh my gosh, really? He's in this? Was Richard Roundtree.
Right, Shaft. I mean,
yeah, like, come on.
Freaking Shaft. And he's the commissioner?
Yeah. Yep, he is the police commissioner. And then you also have Tom Atkins, who was just, he's been in everything, just like, tons of stuff. And often playing kind of a rough and tumble cop. So this doesn't really shock me that he was in this, but it was just, putting all these people together into this specific film, it was just surprising to me that some of them agreed to it. Bruce Campbell in one interview said, like, looking at it in retrospect, yeah, it was like kind of a weird film to do, but at the time, the whole idea just totally seemed legit to me. So,
like, oh, come on. Like, Bruce Campbell can look at this movie and say, well, that's unlike me to do a movie like this.
Oh, come on. He was doing Evil Dead and stuff like that. I don't think that this was unlike him.
No,
But
that's what I'm saying. Like,
I just think
this is totally in character for Bruce Campbell to do this film.
Yeah, I think he was just having a humorous take of it. So, anyway. So you have this crazy cast, and then Lauren Landon is also in this. If you have seen sort of these cheesy '80s films, this was kind of her bread and butter. She's actually been pretty active overall. Like if you see, like she's like Airplane 2 and just all these kind of B movies. She's definitely a queen of B movies,
Yeah.
and she's still doing a ton of stuff.
Samurai Cop 2 Deadly Vengeance, for instance. She's actually, that came out in 2015. Oh my
Right,
God.
right.
That sounds like such an 80s movie right there.
Right, and so she's still doing stuff, which I think is great, and she definitely to me looks like that classic 80s
Yeah.
female lead. I mean, she is the one with the most crimping going on.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And
her first scene when we meet her as like the narc, or
uh
the vice cop in her hooker gear.
yeah.
Yeah, she's just crimped to all get out. It's pretty funny.
So anyway, yeah, so that's for the most part the cast. And they pull it off as well as they can. Oh, no, sorry. I should also mention Sheree North, who was in just a ton of films. Lots of classic films and things like that. I think this was definitely an interesting choice for her, but she kind of plays the damaged female cop.
Yeah.
That's kind of stuck at a desk job because she's been injured. But if you look at, she in her heyday had been offered films, like would compete with Marilyn Monroe for roles and things like that, and she really starred in a tons of things, like those big studio films and things like that, and was one of those starlets, and then ends up in Maniac Cop and a ton of other weird little like 80s like TV series. I do remember her from Magnum PI and things like that. So
Looking at her IMDb, it's kind of like she's one of those actors who appears nowadays on like every version of Law and Order and CSI as just like
exactly.
one of the people on that show for one episode and then disappears. So she was on Kojak, she was on Murder She Wrote, Matlock, all of these for like just a couple of episodes, Golden Girls, but busy lady. She definitely worked a lot through the 90s.
Yeah, and it's a living, so she was a working actress, and so anyway, we got that going on. It's not the cast that you would expect to necessarily see with a film like this, and so I like. What were your initial thoughts watching this?
I had watched this before too as a kid, right? Which is how I was like, yeah, I remember there's an angle in Maniac Cop where he shouldn't be alive, and so that's why we need to watch this on Reanimated. But I had no recollection of the plot or other than that element, and so it was shocking to watch it again. It was hilarious. It was everything I kind of wanted it to be.
I
It
know
was
it's definitely. I can see why there is a cult following. This seems like a film you would watch with a bunch of people, and it does have a mystery science theater
oh yeah.
aspect to it where you would do like commentary. It's not a film that you would necessarily be silent during. You're not going to
Mhm.
miss anything too deep.
No. What did you think of the setting? It's New York. It's called, basically, some people say that it was the last grindhouse movie made in New York City. It's a very different version of New York, and so I was just curious what how you felt about it.
This is definitely a version of New York you would see, especially in the '80s. This kind of scary urban
Deserted as all hell.
deserted. I know there's like nobody around anywhere, and this maniac cop is just kind of able to walk up with no problem and kill people in bizarre ways. It's especially funny, not funny, but just weird when the scene with the first scene in the movie, you have the woman, and there's only like two people around. The two
Hmm.
people pursuing her, she manages to like get away from them and hides on a playground because that's definitely the safest thing to do.
Oh yeah.
But there's like one person that's like a witness. Nobody else is around at this time of night. And also, I don't know if you notice this, but the city is completely silent. No
Hmm.
traffic, no nothing. I mean, it's just a really just such a contrived set, which is kind of funny. And this is the kind of New York that they portray. You'll see in 80s television shows and movies at the time. That's such like a dangerous and scary place with crimes happening all the time and all that kind of thing. And granted, New York was not necessarily the safest place, but it's just interesting to see it in such an exaggerated vision.
Yeah, no, it feels very strange and not at all the way that any of our cities are portrayed in media these days. I feel like they're definitely just trying to, and yeah, like you said, it's very much an '80s vibe. You see this constantly in other things. A lot of Schwarzenegger products
Mm-hmm.
happen to look this way. So this movie starts with yeah, that whole scene, and then we get introduced to McCrae, who's like the lead investigator, whose like eulogy at the site of the crime is, yeah, I liked Sally or whatever her name is. She always had all the new jokes.
I know, right?
So right away I was laughing. I was just like, wow, that's the thing.
That's it.
That's your takeaway.
Right. It's really interesting. Just and it's like I feel just while watching it that they had somewhat of an idea of what this film was going to be, but they had very sketchy details as to what the story and the plot would be. So it felt kind of like, okay, I have an idea for all these kills. Let's see if we can fit it all in here.
Hmm.
And okay, that'll work. And it just was a very muddy and thin storyline.
Well, story wise, it's we don't even meet Bruce Campbell until 20
Right.
something minutes in, and he's the hero.
Right.
I mean, so it's like the film can't decide who the hero is because at first you think it's McCrae,
Right.
and that's also reinforced by when he goes out to meet someone from the press, and she's like 24, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like clearly in his 60s, and she's like, I thought we weren't gonna see each other anymore, and he's like, this isn't a romantic date. And I'm like, no shit, you're 40 years older than that woman is. Why are you even talking to her? I thought, so I was like, oh, this is just them saying that he's like a virile hero type character. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, they definitely played him as the hero for most of it. And I have to say, Bruce Campbell wasn't really an effective hero at all, in my mind, anyway.
Not until the last 20 minutes, probably.
Even then, I don't know that he really, to me, was fit that role. I mean, he did a lot of yelling and shouting and running, but not. He wasn't really effective.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, his chin going up against Zadar's chin,
right.
there was no comparison. So just in a chin off, he wasn't winning. Um,
Which is a rare thing. I mean, usually he does win the chin off,
right?
but
So this
Zadar's.
movie, yeah, there's no comparison. But this movie starts with three murders, kind of just like one after another, and then a scene with McCrae going like, "Well, I guess we have to, figure out what's going on. Is this a cop killing people?" And the cops are like, "No, suppress that information. We don't, we're the cops, and we don't believe that any of our guys can do anything wrong." And then in one of the scenes, somebody is like, "Tourism is down by almost 40%
Mm.
after three or four murders." And maybe it's like three or four murders in 1 week. But can you imagine? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how often there are murders in New York now, but I have to assume three or four murders in New York in a week is probably not totally abnormal.
No, I mean, if you look at just from a statistical, you know, like there's a ton of people, so and there's probably ones you don't even know about. So yeah, I don't like, but I think if you look at sort of um, the underlying storyline here, it's not just that you've got murders going on, but it's also that are the cops people that are actually helping, or are they, and government as well, or are they just trying to either cover it up, or are they part of the problem, or have they kind of given up because there's this big crime wave? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there was definitely that. The 3 to 4 week though, I mean, I guess at that time that would be shocking, but no, I think that that's probably pretty low number now.
Yes.
Although I
So
don't quote me on that. I don't necessarily follow murder statistics on
no,
a
why
daily
not?
basis. I don't know.
Well, but you're right. The underlying, plot is government and the people in power and the police are more interested in suppressing the information to avoid a PR disaster than
Right.
like going after the Maniac Cop. So we have McCrae, who's off, basically going to the press, that was an interesting part of that interaction, even though they made it stupid by saying like we're romantically connected. What he's doing is leaking information to the press. So that I thought was kind of cool as a journalist.
What, that he's
And
leaking it to the press, that he's
yeah,
like one
he's
of the
like,
only.
hey, he's like, yeah, he says he tries to get the commissioner to come clean and get people to report maniac cops that they see, and the commissioner's like, no way, Jose. So then he's like, listen, journalism, this is going on. So he's like off the reservation, and we also have Bruce Campbell, who once he's implicated, then decides that he's going to be like trying to find out the real source of the killings too.
Yeah.
Other than that, who can we trust? Oh, I'm the vice cop. What's
Right.
her name?
Yeah.
So Bruce Campbell, yeah, like you said, not introduced in the best way. When they want us to think that he is the maniac cop, when they show him only by the back of his head, he's being kind of testy with his crazy wife, who's clearly crazy. He's not super friendly. He's also cheating on his crazy wife with Mallory,
Mm-hmm.
the vice cop, and then his wife gets killed, and he gets dragged in, and then this also kind of undermines a little bit the zombie element of this, because the maniac cop is clearly, he's got an agenda. It's kind of hard to figure out what it is because he's also just killing randoms, but he wants to take revenge on all the people that we don't like in the movie, like the mayor and Richard Roundtree,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
You mean
But
Shaft?
he's just got a little bit too much of an agenda to, and then sometimes he doesn't follow his own agenda when he's just killing random people in the streets.
Right, and the random people in the streets. I mean, one of the things with like a grindhouse film is that the kills and things that you have to do, they like. I guess that part of the fear that is created is because they are so random. Like he just kind of encounters people in the street and kills them.
Yeah.
Like breaks their neck or throws them on. Like the couple in the car was one of my favorites, only because it was just like so empty in those streets, and he has his weird little police sword that he destroys like the guy in the couple, and he like throws the body onto the car, and the woman is in the car, is freaking out, but doesn't, I guess she just assumes that he's dead, but she doesn't want to get out to help him. She just kind of drives away. And like,
Well, she turns on her windshield wipers.
first, to get the blood out of the way, because that's gonna help, and then
Yeah.
like it just like it was like just not entertaining, but part of the kitschiness and the silliness of these kinds of films are these kills, and like the pacing of this felt so slow to me.
Well, yeah.
And I mean, that's part of where I think we live in an age where everything is quickly edited, and you would never have a film that's this slow moving, and just sort of disjointed, as this appears, unless it's by design. This is just sort of the classic tropey thing that they do. I started to watch this at normal speed, and I actually sped it up because I found it just like I couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
I just couldn't. I kept like turning it off, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna get through this.
So another one of my favorite scenes in this film is when Vic McCrae tails the lady with the leg brace.
Oh, that's great.
Because again, they're in deserted New York City, as you are, and he tails her as the only other car on the street.
I know, and it's sort of like he wouldn't be noticed because he
And he's
has
right
the only.
behind her.
He's right there. It's not mysterious what he's doing. It's just really. But this is part. I mean, this is part of why we like this kind of a film, because it is so silly and so ridiculous. So yeah, I like the zombie aspect of this. They're really, and the funny thing about it is that they never actually explain what happened to him. I mean,
how he came
really,
back.
I mean, we
No.
know that he did. We just don't know why he is suddenly bulletproof and undead-ish.
lady with the leg brace, when she's talking to him, we're overhearing her conversation. It's sort of implied that he's just so angry he wouldn't die. You know?
It is, but he gets like headshots. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of. I mean, Mallory hits him right in the head. She says she hit him twice in the head. So I think that that's implausible. Anger as a way to stay alive and bulletproof. I've never heard that that's worked.
Well, Maniac Cop proving you wrong.
Mm.
So we have some disturbing scenes of him having gone. He's like a hero cop. They figure this out. And it's kind of funny too that this movie is obviously made in the same with like Friday the 13th
Yeah.
and things like Halloween. These unkillable killers, right? Like Jason and Michael Moore. But Matt Cordell doesn't really have a ring to it. I mean, I guess either just Jason or no, is it Michael
Freddy.
Moore? No, I'm not getting that right.
Freddy.
Michael Moore's a documentary guy.
Yes, he is, but that's really funny.
Michael Meyer.
It's Michael Meyer. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess none of these names are like scary in and of themselves. Is the name Freddy very scary? Not really. But Matt
Yeah.
Cordell just sounds like this is the guy that I go drinking with or something. I don't know.
Mm.
So Matt Cordell gets sent to prison for something I don't recall why he was like he hurt someone, I think, on the job, and
They kind of trumped up the charges. It was like police brutality. It's also because of the enormous size of his chin and jawline.
Yes, of course. Everything comes back to that.
Mm-hmm.
But then this shower scene is one of the only scenes in the film that got cut from the BBC version.
So the charges were trumped up because he had actually been investigating police corruption.
Ah, yes, of
Right.
course.
So that's why he's after. I mean, ultimately, that's why he's after everybody. So he gets sent into prison, where obviously that's kind of a dangerous place for a cop to be. It's if you have put some of the people that are in there and are incarcerated, then they're gonna not be too psyched. So anyway, the
scene of him getting walked into the block in prison and like this very everything in this movie is slow. This very long, slow scene of criminals turning to face him, and they all have these beautiful mullets and like the scariest bunch of dudes with mullets you've ever seen.
And then the lighting too, when he walks in, like the lighting is incredible. It's just like these long sort of operatic long like moments that they're just trying to show how evil these dudes are. It's so long. The scene is just took forever.
Yeah. But the shower scene is pretty brutal. Just a bunch of naked dudes fighting with knives in a shower, not unlike Eastern Promises, except fewer ball shots.
And how about that soundtrack?
I didn't register. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I did watch it a week or so ago, but
it's this weird, like piped in dramatic music that just won't quit, and it's really. I mean, it's just like it's showing his tragic downfall, and it's violent and whatever, but it just really, for whatever reason, I found it extraordinarily humorous. I guess I'm just a dark person.
All these movies are well known also for having insane music. Another insane scene or sequence in this film is when Bruce Campbell and Mallory are reunited in prison or at the police station for an interrogation. And McCrae's like, I'm going to leave you two lovebirds alone for a minute. He goes outside, and it becomes quickly apparent that the Maniac Cop is in the building, and he has managed to kill
everybody.
10 police officers.
Not only kill them, but silently hang them all up or, by their, strangle them with their handcuffs and just sort of hang them around. Just like these sort of police officer mobiles around the station, silently.
And within a minute or two, or however long it was that McCrae went in, and Mallory walked into the into the interrogation room. I mean, you walk right out the door, and there's a guy swinging right there. So it was very, very quick. And so the Maniac Cop's purpose in going there, I think, was to kill his ex-girlfriend, which he manages to do. But then he also manages to kill McCrae, so our hero is done, and that's a long way down. He throws him out like a fourth-story window.
Yeah, and again, he was the most hero acting person in this, and this is I would argue with you that Mallory is a little bit more of a hero even than Bruce
Yes.
Campbell in this,
Yes.
and that's unusual at this time too. And that actually, some of what they are saying about the remake of Maniac Cop is that they're going to make the main hero person a female cop that's on the trail of the Maniac
Yeah.
Cop.
Yeah. You're right. And Mallory, she could have just been a easy victim when she gets attacked in her first scene with the Maniac Cop. But she shoots him a whole bunch of times. It's a little cheesy that McCrae runs into the alley and also shoots the Maniac Cop before the for whatever, I forget why the Maniac Cop leaves.
No, there's no reason why he leaves at all.
Yeah,
So
he could have
that's
just killed
also
both of them.
so that's actually kind of funny too. But no, like this death of McCrae, there's definitely a transition here where now it's up to Mallory and Bruce to bring the Maniac Cop in to take him down. But
So they
nobody
go
will
to
believe nobody will
no,
believe them.
right, because it's clear that they killed all 11 of the police officers in the downtown central police station. They go to Sing Sing, and then suddenly we start hearing about St. Patrick's Day.
Hmm.
And then it becomes a St. Patrick's Day film, and Sam Raimi makes a cameo.
Yes, yes, he does.
So I
Uh,
wonder if this is where Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell met.
I don't know. I feel like they have had a long-standing friendship, but that's possible, I guess. But yeah, so they're basically trying to track down who this guy is, what his motivation is, and then they get some very key information from the medical examiner of the prisoner, which is still a little strange. The whole the whole interaction between them and the doctor. Wouldn't you agree that that's a little awkward and
Remind me how that one goes.
well, so they go to the prison. They're
My notes just say weird conversation with the doctor. That's the end of my notes on that.
so they basically go in to get more information about Matt and what happened to him, and they're just trying to solve the mystery. And it's even a little odd because the fact that they're there and asking him, and given that he does have something to hide, he tells them an awful lot before he suddenly asks them to give him identification.
Hmm.
And then and it takes like a really long time for them to pull any sort of useful information out of him. But the gist of it is that once Cordell was supposedly his body was brought to him for autopsy, he realizes that he has a very faint sign of life, and he, instead of doing an autopsy, releases him in his brain damaged in his state to the other woman, his ex-girlfriend, who takes him home.
Just
Sally.
lets him out of jail. Lets him out of jail, essentially.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Sally takes him home, and he's like, and the big sort of dun 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 is that the medical examiner says, but he wouldn't be able to do anything. He was brain dead. And Bruce Campbell's like, brain dead, all right, And have you looked at the newspapers? And it's just like this very long, strange scene between the three of them. So
I just recall the doctor like looking at it. He's about to go to work on a body with a sheet over it, it's just drenched in blood, and then he has like a realization during the voiceover, and he pulls out a stethoscope and starts listening for vitals through the blood-soaked sheet.
yeah.
Like at no point, I mean, I'm sure they were doing this for ratings or something, but at no point does he pull the sheet back to work actually on the body.
And there's actually no, I mean, from what the audience can see or what I could see, there's no indication about why he thought that there might be life there. He just
Yeah.
suddenly like decides to feel his pulse.
Yeah.
And while we were talking, I did a little quick research, and as I thought, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell knew each other since high school.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
One of those
And they
high
used
school
to,
sweethearts.
Yep, and they used to torture each other and get each other into a lot of trouble. And I would expect that both of them must have been horribly, like, just a pain in the butt in high school. They seem like that type. But anyway, I digress. Back to the weird medical examiner.
And back. Oh yeah, you got more on him.
No, just it was like I thought that this scene was going to at least help in some way explain more what had happened to Matt Cordell, like why he was still alive, or if there was some. I thought there was going to be some reveal about a strange twist about why he was suddenly bulletproof or even functional. And no, there wasn't. He was just a vegetable when he left.
You expect too much of this film.
I know.
But we are suddenly flashed back to New York, where the plan is for Mallory to get inside the police headquarters and do something while Bruce Campbell waits in the street outside. What was she going in there for?
She was going in there to tell them what had happened to Matt Cordell, and it was unclear to me what proof she was going to offer them, since they all think that Bruce Campbell has killed all these police officers. Like what, other than just telling them, which I guess is her plan and seems to be what she does, and seems surprised that they don't believe her. It's, and they're all getting ready for the St. Patrick's Day parade, so they don't have time for any of this garbage.
Yeah, they've got this huge parade that they have to deal with, and it's really funny later when the cop who's been put in charge of her is like, "Look, man, everybody else got to go to the parade, and I'm stuck here with you." I'm like, "You're a police officer."
And he's really
wrong with you?
And he's really angry about it, as if it's such an exciting thing to do. Anyway, but this actually leads to one of my favorite scenes in the film, and Richard Roundtree just basically says, "Pshaw, there's no way that this is happening," and he and his weird little assistant decide to leave, and of course get killed by Maniac Cop. And
in silhouette.
Yep. And so the cop that's watching Mallory, it starts to finally walk her to lock up after these awkward conversations where he's, I guess, he wants her to tell him where Bruce Campbell is so that he can get an arrest or something. And
he wants to bone her.
That too, but he doesn't really get anywhere with that and doesn't even really try very hard. But he gets, killed by Maniac Cop, but he's handcuffed to Mallory. And so I just I was just dying of laughter because he gets killed and Maniac Cop is clearly just right there.
But he just stabs him and walks away.
He stabs him and either waits behind the whatever partition, that like shelf or whatever it is, and she's just dragging the body of the cop, and it takes a really long time, and he's clearly very heavy for her to be doing this, and she can't get out of the door because there's bodies in the door, and he still doesn't make an appearance. Like, he could have offed her at any point during this this very slow escape, but he doesn't, and waits long enough so that she can bar herself into another office and find the handcuff keys.
Right.
So it's really funny.
It's a bizarre scene. And she is his. Well, the commissioner and the police captain are his targets too, but she's also a target because she has been as a witness or like a non-corroborating witness of his murder of Bruce Campbell's wife. Like, essentially, right. She has very little to do with his murder spree, but somehow she is like target number one, who is not part of his main plot target list. It's very strange. This also leads to another one of my favorite scenes where Mallory is going down the fire escape, except it's not Mallory. It's a stunt woman, and it's very clearly just another person wearing a Mallory wig.
It's pretty rough.
She's not doing. all she's doing is walking down a fire escape. There's nothing remotely stunt-like about it, except that it is like a New York 1980s fire escape, and maybe those things were perilous, and they couldn't afford to let Lorraine Landon do that move.
Maybe, but yes, it was very clearly not her.
And there's multiple shots of this too. It's just like, because it takes her a long time to get down the side of the building while Bruce Campbell is being arrested again, because his plan was to stand on the other side of the street from a police station.
In plain sight.
In plain sight. And once things like pop off upstairs and the cops around the entrance are all like, well, there's shooting in the building behind us. Let's look across the street and see Bruce Campbell and try to arrest him instead of like running inside to save the day.
Yeah.
So it's all very confusing. And then they end up in a police vehicle, like a van, and there's a kind of a nutty chase scene to the docks.
Yes.
Well, where Bruce Campbell is, he should have really been wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
It's surprising that he didn't get injured. He's on like just a metal bench with his hands behind his back and he's being bounced all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And Mallory commandeers a car with another cop, but doesn't really identify herself. And this guy's just
Nope.
like, I'll do whatever you say.
Yeah, and then they just go after the van, and again, it's a very long chase scene.
Everything about this movie kind of takes a long time. And they get to the warehouse and the docks, and the rookie cop is like, let's call for backup. And then he shows up and shoots Matt Cordell one time with a shotgun and then does not make it through the rest of the scene.
Nope. And then, I mean, there's like a bit of a fight scene. Things get out of control, and then the whole big the cop truck van thing ends up going off a dock into the water.
Well,
And
not before it's looks like it impales Maniac Cop with a really big piece of wood.
oh, that's right. Like it's almost like he's a vampire and getting impaled. No, I mean it's an over the top weird fight scene that doesn't have any resolution, really. And then when they end up in the water, like again, it's very slow moving and deliberate, and they show like these different angles about like when it's going to go off this pier into the water, and the slow mo of Bruce Campbell or his stunt guy jumping out just in time.
Mm-hmm.
Really
That looked like a
incredible.
pretty cool stunt. Pretty cool
good.
stunt, honestly.
It was good. It was good. But it was slow mo, so it was just really clearly very important.
Yeah, and then of course they drag the vehicle out of the water again. That's like we jump right to that, and he's not in there. The hand coming out of the water
Yeah.
is great because like why isn't he putting his head above water first? But I guess Maniac Cop doesn't need to breathe. That's rookie work.
Yep. Nope. He does not need to breathe. Just his hand needs the air.
His hand needs to hold on to something above the water. And then in the extended cut, we kind of go from that to the mayor's office. Suddenly, he's in the mayor's office hiding behind some curtains, which this was the only worthwhile part of the extended scenes, in my opinion. It was
great.
You had to establish like how unlikable the mayor was,
right?
But then and that other cop who's the only other character who goes between both the extended and the regular cut is like some long-haired cop that Bruce Campbell's friends with.
Right.
And he goes in and tells the mayor that he's like a sack of shit. And he's like, I can tell you whatever I want. I'm going to retire next week.
Yep.
That was also a good scene. But then Matt Cordell hiding behind the curtains in the mayor's office was pretty good too.
Well, because you just see his feet.
Yeah.
And the music's like dun dun dun.
Some screaming. Oh, I don't know if we're going to do Maniac Cop 2, 3, but we'll have to check out 2011 or 2017 rather.
Yeah, we'll have to check out 2017. I don't know that I can watch the other two in this franchise. Maybe not immediately. Maybe eventually, but not. I don't think I can do that right off the bat. But it was. I mean, I do like revisiting these things. It's also interesting to think, it's interesting to see. I mean, there were. The attitude towards cops and towards law enforcement at this time were not very positive. There was a lot of stuff going on, and this was kind of like hitting people over the head with that kind of idea of corruption and things like that. And so it's interesting to me that this has gotten a green light now, and I wonder how they're going to handle certain themes. So. We shall see. I mean, I feel like they're going to run into probably a lot of some charged conversations about this film coming out, because you just don't normally see police officers. I mean, the corrupt cop is a trope, but to have a whole theme called, a new movie called Maniac Cop now, it's going to be, I don't know, it's interesting that they are moving forward. I guess it depends on how they present the other cops in it.
Yeah, like you said, I agree with what you're saying. It's just ultimately it's going to come down to how even-handed they present this.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel drained by talking about Maniac Cop.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our review of Maniac Cop. Curious to hear what people's thoughts are, and I think from my point of view, it was like it was fun if I speeded it up. And I am curious to see what they do with the remake. But please join us next time when we discuss Life After Beth, which is the Aubrey Plaza, Anna Kendrick zombie film that came out in 2014. We talked about it an awful lot, so now we're actually going to make good on our review and finally watch it. So if you have comments in the meantime, feel free to visit our website at reanimatedpodcast.com. Send us a Gmail, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet at us, reanimatedpcast, and that's our Twitter handle. Anything else, Stuart?
That's about it. Thanks for listening, and may the Maniac Cop be with you.
Indeed.
No ciao?
Oh, ciao.
It's your signature move. You can't end the show without saying ciao.
I'm off my A game, man. I'm so tired.